Well, the old girl finally had it. I have finally broken or used up my old weed puller. And so I went in search of another one just like it, but there's none to be found. All I could find were this little model over here. Let me pull it back here. And at first I rejected it. It was all sleek and new, but it just didn't look like old girl, you know? Emotional attachment there. And when I found that I couldn't find any more of these, and I was forced to buy this one, and now I couldn't be happier. And that's kind of the theme of this pro show today. Kind of the theme of what we're going to be doing coming into the new year is releasing the old to embrace the new. And we'll talk more about that in the series that I'm starting right now on what would a voluntary society look like. And this is part one of it. And we'll be talking about releasing the new. Stay tuned. Well, so many of us in the voluntary, anarchist, agorist community often get asked the question, what exactly would a voluntary society look like? Well, let's be honest. What it's really like, come on, is with the hands on the hip and the stern look of, and exactly what would that look like? With some kind of accusatory tone, and that they can't imagine any other way of living other than the current way we're living. Well, I'd like to tell you, what a voluntary society would look like, and I will gladly give you some examples of voluntary actions that have gone on. But first, in keeping with the theme of what's going on in the end of this year, and as we move into the time of the new moon on the 15th of January, this is a time of letting go and releasing of things that no longer work for you, things that no longer have value, things that no longer bring energy, positive energy into your life. And some of those things are old paradigms and old thought processes that we have. So in order to embrace and understand even a voluntary society, there are three kind of fallacies that you've got to let go of. And the first one is, how many cars would a stop sign stop if a stop sign could stop cars, right? How many cars does that stop sign actually stop? Not a single one. In fact, it's the voluntary actions of the people driving those cars and that stops the cars. The only reason they stop those cars, and it's not even a fear of a ticket, because you see people all the time running kind of like a rolling stop, but it's the fear of some economic or physical damage being done. The fear that if I run through this thing, I'm going to get T-boned and probably hurt, killed, at least damage to my vehicle. The self-preservation is the whole thing. So this whole fallacy of this authority that keeps you safe, it's a fallacy. For one thing, the only person that can represent you is you. The only person that represents your interests. The only person also who holds any authority over you that can make you do anything is you. We've grown accustomed to this whole concept of, and we operate so much of this concept of passive aggression, where we try to get people to do things and convincing them that it's their idea to do what we want them to do, which is the whole way government and every entity, religion, all of the entities that seek to manipulate, they utilize that form of manipulation, that passive aggression, rather than just point blank saying, I want you to do this. They try to get you to think it's your idea, and that's the same way with government, and that's the same way that they're steering you, and thinking that this is at the end of the election season in Georgia. we've got the runoff, and I keep hearing all these promises about these things that these guys are going to do, and of course, they never do them because they don't have the authority to do it. It's just empty promises. So we live in this kind of la la land, and it's funny because those who oppose the voluntary ideology say that we are the ones living in a fantasy land. But the real fantasy land is that there is an authority outside of you that governs your body, your mind, your thoughts, your actions. That going back to the passive aggressive thing is that whole thing of telling someone, you made me mad. Well, you know what? If you're giving someone the authority and the ability and the permission to make you mad, is it their fault that you're mad? Let's look at fallacy number 2 next. Fallacy number 2 is that you need to be governed. And the little video was in reference to something my brother and I like to refer to as piss between your own 2 feet, which is pretty much a summary of what voluntarism is all about. The fallacy that we need to be governed. It goes back to really our whole concept that we've been taught of this idea of original sin, that we're just sinners saved by grace. And I've got a really neat little story. The link should be somewhere up here, if I did this right, that you can go to on Vocal. And it's a little story that I've, a little endeavor of fictional work that I've started that I think you'll enjoy. It goes along with this whole idea of original sin, because one of the things that I often ask when someone tells me that I'm some wicked, evil, vile creature because I don't vote, I ask them if they need to be governed. Now, if you've ever tried asking some of your friends who believe in the overarching power of the state, if they need to be governed, 99.9% of the time they will not answer. They will avoid the question. But if you get the answer, almost 100% of the time the answer is no, but they do. This they. And that's why the theme is, of this segment, piss between your own 2 feet. Because see, that's the thing. It goes back to Adam's sin was not disobeying some arbitrary mandate. It was in looking at what someone else had. It was in lusting after someone else's possessions. It was. Wow, those chickens really went after that stuff, didn't they? And the pigs too. They'll fight over it and kick each other out of the way and peck each other. And so it's kind of like Black Friday at Walmart used to be, right? People waiting in line and one fighting, violence breaking out. And what that stems from is the third fallacy that we have to release. And this is a tough one because I'm a staunch, lifelong capitalist, and anyway, we'll get into that. But this is a hard one to swallow. But this whole concept of limited resources, and that's one of the things that working in permaculture has convinced me of, and determining that within an environment, within an ecosystem, within a system, everything necessary for that system exists. Everything necessary for us, all of the elements necessary for our survival exist within us. So everything necessary within that system is within that system for that system to exist. And so there can't be anything such thing as lack. There's just a distribution. I've seen that in that just now I gathered 2 full carts full of food for my animals. And they were dandelion and weeds and things that I popped up out of the yard. And there's probably a good 10 carts more out there now, and there'll be continue to be. I will be able to feed my animals through the winter on those things that accidentally came up. This system provided. I've had plants that I didn't plant come up in my garden, and when I researched the plant, they had medicinal qualities or certain qualities that I was looking for, or certain health benefits that I was looking for. So, and that's the shifting. The shifting has to come from, and it moves back up the ladder from everything. First, the authority. The authority is you. You're the authority of your life. That fallacy has to go. That anyone else is an authority. You have to say, I am the determiner of my fate. And that's what voluntary interactions embrace. And we'll show you what it looks like, and I'll tell you how to get there. But these are things you can't bring this baggage in. You can't bring in the idea that there is an authority over you. It's just impossible. And there's a shift coming. If you want to go, it's going to be cool. It's going to be good. The second thing, again, the second fallacy is that you need to be governed. That there's something wrong with you, and it's because we put our focus on out there. We've been compared. And all the powers that be do that. The religious sects. I mean, I grew up in a Baptist home, and man, the Baptists really believed that at that time that the Methodists were all going to hell because they sprinkled rather than dunked. Now, I don't mean to get theological here, but let me ask you this. Do you think that a God that created all of this would really have something to do with so much pettiness? Anyway, so this idea that you need to be governed, this idea that we need these laws. Let me tell you something. You want me to tell you what you need a law? If you're not willing to kill your grandmother, and I'm assuming you like your grandmother, if you're not willing to kill your grandmother in order to enforce the law, then it's a pretty crappy law. It shouldn't be a law. It's a matter of opinion. So we've got to let go of this idea that we need someone outside, that has authority over us, to tell us how to run our lives. You are capable of understanding. You are capable, and that's part of what's happening in a voluntary society. Is that responsibility for myself, that I'm capable of embracing everything, every aspect of who I am, and taking responsibility for it, and accepting the consequences of those decisions that are mine, and how freeing that is. But the final thing is that idea of lack, and this is where we move from this idea of corporatism, and even the idea of capitalism, because capitalism is about the amassing of goods. It's about the amassing of things. And one of the things that the permaculture environment seeks to embrace is a generosity, a benevolence. And that is not something that exists in capitalism. And I separate capitalism from the free and unfettered market, which voluntarism, as I see it, would offer, in that if you have goods and I have goods, we enter into a free and voluntary exchange of goods, and whatever we come out of it, it's let the buyer beware, because you entered into it voluntarily, I entered into it voluntarily. Neither one of us is screwed. Both of us got exactly what we got, and we're okay with that. Because the thing is what I found is most people, when you really get down to it, and this is that whole, they try to keep us versus them, but when you talk to people, I mean, in a typical Facebook thread, there may be people from 25, 30 different countries in a long thread of on a good post, and they're communicating, and what we find out is look, it's not them. They're not some fanatical people over there looking to kill us and cut our heads off. They're mothers and fathers who are just simply looking to raise their children and see them succeed in this world. They just simply want to live. They just simply want to be. And so it's that whole idea of lack, that they've got something we don't have, that's perpetrated by a system, when you talk about capitalism, whose whole modus operandi is to create scarcity, or the idea of scarcity, because that's what commercials do. And so we end up acting like my chickens and my pigs out there and trampling over each other. And see, that's not voluntarism. And so in order to move into and understand what I'm going to be talking about in a voluntary society, you've got to be willing to at least, maybe not leave it behind, but at least say, okay, I'm going to open this door, and say, maybe I need to rethink some of my beliefs, some of my understandings. It went a little longer than I expected, but I hope you get something out of it. Remember to click on the link for the story. Heck, I think you'll enjoy it. And also, because we get a little scratch from the clicks on the story, it won't cost you anything, because we don't do any monetary stuff here. We don't have monetary links. We don't have ad links on our site. Nothing like that. Any products that we recommend, I'll tell you that it's a Corona weed plucker that you saw earlier. It's pretty good. I kind of wish they had it where you could had the foot pedal on both sides, but I understand why not. And anyway, that's just a personal thing, but it is absolutely tons better than the other one. So that's the theme again, coming back full circle to that, is that often. See, we bring all these old ideas, all these old things with us, try to bring them forward, and when there's a new thing happening, we can't bring our old vessels in. We got to come in with clean vessels. And so in this new year, as we let go of some of the things, I would just ask you to investigate. Just think about what I've said. Selah, as they say. Pause. Think about this. Until next time, I will be back Saturday for the farm report, and let you know what's going on. I'll test the water and see how me peeing in the fish tank has affected and the ammonia. And we may be able to start pumping water through through the grow beds and see if we can get some bacteria started and get that ready for fish. Anyway, I love you. I mean it. Until next time, namaste.